So, yeah. If you've already seen the link, that's in the description. You know why I'm laughing. So, I tend to pride myself on being a bit of an observer of human behavior. And generally, I pay fairly close attention to people's body language and their tone, things like that. And recently, one of the great friends of the channel, Vash, that's a joke. He's not really a friend of the channel. Uh, now, understand very clearly, I don't intend this as an attack. I don't want anyone to give him any sort of hell. That's what I don't want. Now, free speech is a thing. You guys know I'm a free speech absolutist. You have the right to say whatever you want, but be aware you're in my comments section, and I will police my comments section carefully. I don't want to get yeeted off YouTube, at least not yet. But Vash apparently made an oopsie, and also apparently is now attempting to pull it back. Yeah. I'm sure quite a few of you have already heard about this. If you haven't, go watch the link, then come on back. Your timestamp will be about 2 minutes, so I'll wait a few seconds before I continue. Okay. That should be more than enough time for everybody. So yeah, you guys draw your own conclusions, but my thinking is that if I were associating with this individual in any way that might be construed as less than 100% legit, I would avoid engaging with this individual in any way in future. Now, all that said, he is claiming this is apparently a joke, but with the aforementioned observations of human behavior, it's kind of difficult to accept that explanation at face value, considering that he said what he said, and his body language and his demeanor, his tone, all of it kind of points to him being in a mental space where he perceived himself to be telling the whole truth and not to be intending to be any sort of humorous. For example, this is me simply talking and discussing the weather, or, it's kind of rainy outside. It's just starting to be light, daylight, I mean. Yeah. Now, and I'm already cracking a little bit, but if I were to switch and suddenly talk about how I have a pet wild baloney in the corner, and, his name is Cougar, and he likes to run around with sniper rifles made of Nerf guns, yeah, it's kind of hard for me to maintain the same demeanor. I'm fairly sure even my body language changed a little bit. I was watching the camera lens as opposed to the camera screen. But yeah, I'm fairly certain you guys could see the change in demeanor when I switched. And I'm willing to admit it may have been extremely subtle, but there was a shift. It may have been my tone as well. But as far as I can tell, there's none of that with this video. So Vash is admitting to being a CI. Or at least an I. He may not have actually engaged in anything criminal himself, though that's debatable given the behavior of Antifa. To be fair, that's debatable given the behavior of some Antifa groups. Anyway, the thing I think is kind of odd is that this is an individual who knew he was being filmed because he set up the camera and yet continued to say the things he was saying rather than going, no, I'm just kidding, immediately. Or, prefacing it in some fashion. Now, again, as I don't regularly watch Vosh, and I am relying on a clipped piece of video, it is quite possible that he prefaced it with something, or that he added something immediately after the clip ends to indicate that he was being false. It's possible. And I will give him the benefit of the doubt. And like I say, I'm fairly sure I could shake the man's hand in public and have a decent conversation with him. At least I hope I could. I tend to expect the best from people. That's why sometimes I'll say things that may require explanation, and I may not offer those explanations because I assume that my viewers are capable adults or capable individuals who are able to find the answers for themselves if they need them. Excuse me. I also don't expect you guys to take every single thing I say at face value. But I also throw receipts where I can. When I have them to show, I'll show them. And when I can't show them, I try to avoid any sort of random speculation. That said, this does not look good, Vosh. Assuming that all of this is legit, or factual and accurate, let's say, this makes you look very bad. This makes you look like the kind of person who is absolutely and 100% untrustworthy in any situation. That's not a good thing for a man to be. A man should be able to be judged by his reputation. Vosh's reputation is speckled, to say the least. But even with a bad reputation, a man should have a degree of integrity. People, occasionally do bad things. I'm no saint. I've got a bit of a checkered past myself. But if you treat your past as anything other than prologue, and you don't... There's a very big fly trapped next to my light. I've tried to get him out of the shed a couple of times. He's just going to die in here. But if you behave in such a way that there is no change from your past to your present to your future, then you're not really growing as an individual. And one of the things I try to do is to be a little better today than I was yesterday, and better again than the day before. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail. But I keep trying. From this video, this makes Vosh look insanely bad. And I shared this video with one of my friends who got quite a kick out of it because neither one of us have a particularly high opinion of Vosh for various reasons. Now, does that mean that I'm going out of my way to smear the guy? No, I'm showing you exactly what he's said about himself. And I will offer Vosh a piece of advice. Or actually, a couple of pieces of advice. But first, stop talking about your past if you don't want people to talk about it yourself. If you don't want to have your past thrown in your face, to have the bad things you've done in the past brought up to you again, if you don't want to have to defend yourself from potential smears, I won't say slander because slander is actually a criminal act, but if you don't want to have people bring things up to you that you're not proud of, don't talk about them. It's your past, and if it's in the past, let it stay in the past. One of my least favorite lines from the new Star Wars stuff is, let the past die. Kill it if you have to. Now, I don't necessarily go that far. I think you should be informed by your past. Your past is what you build your foundation on to be a better person in the future. If you've made mistakes, learn from them. Now, clearly, if what Vash says here about being an informant in the past is true, then he still has that instinct to disseminate information in an unfortunate manner. And unfortunately, in this case, he's done it to himself. Again, and I want to stress this very, very clearly, both for my viewers and for YouTube, I am not encouraging anyone to do anything to Vash. Let the man alone. If he comes out of this and apologizes, if he comes out of this and doubles down, none of that matters. I'm simply giving you the information, and I don't want you to act on it beyond either having a good laugh, going and learning some more, or just sharing it amongst your friend circle. All that said, this is a dick move. And the person he's being a dick to in this video is himself. He is literally ratting himself out for being a rat in the past. Now, do I encourage or condone any sort of illegal activity? Of course not. You'd have to be an idiot to do that. Whether I feel positive towards something that is illegal or not, you'd have to be an absolute idiot to do so on camera. And no, that's not to imply that somewhere in my past I did some illegal things that I'm actually condoning. But Vash, man, you clearly didn't learn from your past. You clearly didn't take the lesson of keep your mouth shut. And while I'm not particularly concerned about Antifa potentially coming after me, now I'm kind of left in the odd position of being slightly concerned for Vash's safety if some of his previous associates discover this video, which, again, if you're going to share the video, don't share it to Antifa guys trying to get Vash hurt. Don't do that. There's enough violence in the world. We don't need to encourage it. But I would be concerned that, well, to be straightforward, if Vash were a personal friend of mine, my advice to Vash would be, what the fuck are you doing? Get that down as fast as you can and scrub it from the internet. And, you know, you shouldn't have talked about it in the first place. But he's talking about betraying the trust of people who actually trusted him. And he's doing it in such a way as to make you think that he neither sees a problem with that, with the betrayal of trust, and he thinks it's perfectly fine to profit, I'm assuming in some fashion, but to profit in some fashion from that betrayal. That's dishonorable behavior. That's scum-sucking behavior is what that is. And if that's what happened, it's very low, to say the least. Now, and understand, this is not me being reverse psychology where I'm telling you not to do something and implying that I'm actually encouraging you to do it. I honestly mean this sincerely. Do not cause Vash any problems because of what you've just seen. Don't attempt to, well, I guess doxing him isn't an issue. His name is public knowledge, but leave him alone. He's made his own fucking problems here. Let him deal with them. But more than anything else, be aware that there are people like this in the world. people who will act like they're trustworthy when you talk to them, and then turn out to be absolute scumbags who were never worthy of that trust in the first place. The feeling that I have towards Vash after this is, dear gods, I'm so glad I was never any sort of fan of his. Full disclosure, I never could be, because of some of his expressed views. Words with V's and S's in them now are going to have SH sounds. Sorry. Vishish. That was a bit of a Sean Connery moment. But, I mean, honestly, okay, on a broader picture, if you're trusted to do something, or to safeguard someone's confidences. If someone tells you something in confidence, even if that confidence is not explicitly expressed, keep it to yourself. I've got, well, like anybody at my age, I've got a lot of secrets rolling around in my head. Not sharing any of them, because that's just the way you behave. Men keep secrets if they are entrusted with them. Honor and integrity. But and I'm trying to find a way to express this. Plus, I've got that fly floating over my head, buzzing around, somewhat distracting me. But it's one thing to... Oh, and this was something else I observed about Vash. He's under the impression that this is perfectly acceptable behavior because everyone does it. No, Vash. Everyone doesn't do that. That's a betrayal of confidence. That's low behavior. That's not manly at all. It's not too far removed from cowardice, to be honest. But if you're entrusted to keep a secret, you should keep that secret, period, no matter what. Well, perhaps not no matter what, but if the person you're keeping the secret for won't be hurt by your keeping the secret, absolutely keep it. If someone says to you, can you keep a secret? Tell them up front, maybe. Tell them the truth, right? And there have been times where people have, friends and acquaintances, have said to me, have asked me, can you keep a secret? And I've gone, no, it depends on the secret. It's the truth. Depending on what the secret is, I may or may not keep it. For example, if someone says to me, I've got half a pound of weed in the back, I don't care. It's marijuana. Currently, it's legal in Canada. Doesn't matter to me. Now, if they said, I've got half a pound of weed and I'm going to sell it to middle schoolers, elementary schoolers, I'm not keeping that secret. In fact, I'm probably punching them in the head and taking their weed. And that's because they're preying on children. If someone says or asks, can you keep a secret? And they say, I'm gay. Okay, fine. Not a problem. I'm not, and I don't care. Now, it may be a case of, I don't want my parents to find out. Okay, then I won't tell anybody. And I also don't understand why you would tell me. But just to go back to Vash to finish off here, because I'm coming up on 20 minutes. When you've done something that is questionable in its morality, and then you go and blurt that out on, and it's not even like he was blurting it, he was basically behaving like this was something praiseworthy, almost. And that's something I've noticed with Vash and quite a few people like him, that they will say things that are absolutely reprehensible, as if they expect to be praised for it. Hassan Piker, for example, saying that Sam Hyde is a Nazi. Well, Sam's not. For one, he's a good Irish boy. Leave him alone. But then he'll act tough to someone way smaller than him. And almost act as if he expects his boys to, and I use that term very specifically, boys. He will act as if he expects his boys to praise him, to suck up to him because of that. That's not praiseworthy. You just attempted to intimidate someone smaller than you because you're afraid of someone else. And I'm sorry, Hassan, you may not like to be characterized that way, but you are clearly afraid of Sam Hyde. Can't say I blame you. I wouldn't want to fight the guy either. Doesn't mean I wouldn't if he challenged me. That said, Sam, if you're watching this, please don't. I don't want to fight you. I'd love to sit down and have a coffee or a beer with you, but I don't want to fight you. But for Vash, the one piece of advice I'm going to give you, take a good hard look at who you are. Go stand in a mirror, look at all the criticism. You go stand in front of a mirror, rather. Don't look into the mirror, because it's going to make it hard to look at your phone. But look at some of the criticisms that are leveled at you, and actually give yourself a hard examination, and see if you can't see the point of view of the people criticizing you. Now, I get criticized fairly regularly, most harshly by myself, in fact. And some of my friends are quite nice about bullying me about my thumbnails. And, you know, I took the lesson, and I do appreciate the concern and care that my friends have. They're doing that for my benefit. And I'm trying to do this for Vash's. Vash, get out some criticisms that you've received and look through them. Now, I'm going to be honest. It's the internet. Not all criticism you get will be valid. And probably a very significant portion of it will be absolute tripe. But in amongst that is going to be some valid criticism. Pay attention to it. Stop and ask yourself, is any of this valid? Does any of this accurately reflect how I present myself to the world? And if you think any part of it might do that, change. Grow. You need to be a better person. If you're constantly getting the same criticism over and over and over and over, if you are constantly silencing the same sort of people. Now, I have to be honest here. I don't know that Vash does silence members of his own audience. I don't know that he doesn't. I don't follow Vash. I know Hassan Piker does. And I don't follow Hassan Piker, which is even more of a thing to be fucking aware of. I don't follow him, but I know enough about Hassan Piker to know that he bans or removes his own subscribers, people who pay his bills, and he tells them to go fuck themselves. That's bad. That's not manly, Hassan. That is bad behavior, and you... Why am I doing that voice? But you see my point. If you want to be a better person, you actually do have to pay attention to the things that are said about you. Anyway, that's over 24 minutes of me rambling on about Vash. I hope I never have to say that name on my channel again. Yeah. So, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.